Welcome to Truth Uncompromised. I am your host, Rhonda. Join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Truth is peace. Truth is justice and freedom to love, live, and be. Music provided by SourceVibrations.com. I am love. I am peace. I am free. I have abundance. I have everything within me. For I was, for I am, for I always be. We are love. We are peace. We are free. We have abundance. We have everything within us. For we are, for we will always be. For Mother Earth is love. For Mother Earth has peace. For Mother Earth is free. For Mother Earth has abundance. For Mother Earth has everything within her. For she was, for she is, for she will always be. And so it is spoken. So it has been written, and it is done.
All right, family. Welcome to the Truth Uncompromised show. I am your host, Rhonda, and tonight we have a great show planned for you. Tonight's main topic of discussion is the Land and Bloodlines. It was really interesting because when we left off last week with Eagle Ties and the ego, I didn't really have a sense of what the next topic was going to be. Because I'd like for the topics to be spiritually driven instead of just coming up with something off of the cuff. So when we got off the air, I so happened, because I'm a huge fan of older movies. I think it's a lot of messages in those older movies. So with that said, Turner Classic Movies, I'm an avid watcher of them. So anyhow, they had on their the last series, because in the month of September they were calling it African American films. So they had two particular movies that came on. One of the movies was called The Walkabout, and it was about the Aboriginals in Australia. And I came in on the tail end of that. I think about the middle of that. So it was really powerful. I looked at that and I said, wow, I bet you they might play this movie that I was told that I needed to look at. I have been told this several times, so I had finally broke down and looked at the movie a couple of weeks ago. And sure thing, this movie called The Last Wave, they played next, and it is also about the Aboriginals and in Australia. So both of the movies had a very powerful message about bloodlines being tied to the land and colonization, etc. And I said, oh, shit, that's what the next show needs to be about. We need to discuss how the land and the bloodlines are tied. And I'm going to use those two movies as an example of the messages that were put out to remind us of these things. And it also ties in to what we've been discussing here lately. So I'm looking forward to that tonight. In addition, we do have a lot of follow-up items to discuss today. I have a go-ahead on with the fuckery, and I know Brother Sean has something that he wants to discuss as well. So I'm going to bring on my co-host. I don't see Brother Sean yet unless he's in on another number, or he might be running a little late. So, sis, if you're in the queue, press *1 so I can make sure that that's you instead of just opening up somebody else's line. Yep, that's you. I see you now. Okay, so I'm going to bring you on. So Brother Sean might be running a couple minutes late. We literally just talked a couple hours ago. So let me bring on my co-hostess, Sandra. Peace and love, sis. How are you?
Oh, peace and love to you, Sister Rhonda. I'm doing good.
Good. It's good to hear your voice, sis.
Thank you. It's good to hear you, too. And peace and love to and Brother Sean, whenever he's there.
Yeah. I know he's going to be coming. We talked literally a couple of hours ago, and I know he had to charge his phone. It should be charged unless he's having problems with it. So he'll drop in, I guess, once he get all of that straightened out. Okay, so sis, follow-up items.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I'm minding my business, and they call it the history. I call it the misinformation channel because they be lying through their teeth. They mix some truth in with the lies. So Remember when we were talking about the whole Antarctica and how everything is happening beneath us, especially in that Arctic. And I talked about the plasma waves being activated and being recorded. So I'm sitting minding my business. I can't make this up. So the misinformation / supposedly history channel, you know, they do the series on ancient aliens. So this was the ancient aliens, and they released the name of the particular show was Ancient Aliens, and it was they were releasing their unedited footage. So meaning they were going back, going back over shows that they had previously done where they had edited out information.
Whoa.
Okay, so guess what they brings up as one of the things that they had edited out?
The Arctic.
They talked about the Arctic, and they said, quote, that the Arctic has the electromagnetic energy that has been caught on camera moving across the ground. So I just kind of cracked up laughing. I'm like, well, damn, we just spoke on that activity on the Arctic with that plasma moving across the ground and how things are heating up. So, and again, just for a recap for those that did not catch that show, we literally talked about that the activity that they are hiding in that Arctic is, number one, we believe is portals. But the main reason that they blocked off folks from traveling in certain areas is the electromagnetic energy and the electroplasma moving across that Arctic that's spreading out across the planet, because the vibratorial energy is rising. So History Channel Funky Ass on Ancient Aliens comes out and says that they have caught on camera electromagnetic energy shooting across the Arctic underground. So exactly what we had just talked about a couple of weeks. And then a couple of weeks ago, then they show some edited out footage where this one pilot who had got an emergency call to go rescue someone, not rescue, but they had some medical emergency where he needed to pick up a patient that was on the restricted area in the Arctic. So he was waiting to get clearance to go do this. And so in the meantime, as he's waiting on clearance, the people that's in the restricted area was blowing up his phone saying, y'all need to come and get this person. They're really in bad shape, this, that, and the third. So he made the decision to go ahead on and get the person because he didn't want the person to die. So he went to head out to get the person before he got approval to do so. So his recap is, once he got to that restricted area, because he was flying in the plane. That's how he was going over to get the person, because this man was a pilot. And that's all his job was, to fly people back and forth to the different areas in the Arctic. So meaning the military or special ops force people. That was his job. So he flew over into the little restricted area. He said he got to a point where all of a sudden all of the devices in the little plane just started acting funny, and then that was shutting off. And he looked down and he saw in the ice that it was this like circle with this hole in the middle of the circle, and he felt like gravity pulling the plane. And he said that something was down there. And he said, so they did wind up making it over to the little area and picked up the little person, this, that, and the third. And then he got cussed out and got written up, or whatever the military lingo is, for going to that restricted area. And he said, well, I had no choice. I asked you, I put out to try to get clearance, and you all wouldn't get back to me. So I didn't want the person to die. And they basically told him they didn't give a damn about the person dying. You didn't have authorization to go over there. So I just found that really, really interesting that Ancient Aliens would release this additional edited. So if it was edited, that means they originally had it in some episode and they took it out. And the part they took out was about that electromagnetic energy being caught on camera, shooting across the ground, underneath the ground, just like we told you all, in the Arctic. And then this pilot giving the recap of how his experience when he went over to that restricted area. So I'm sorry. Go ahead on, sis.
Well, I was... Oh,
and Brother Sean is in. I see him. Okay, brother, I'm going to bring you on. But go ahead, sis. I'm going to bring him on after you.
I'm trying to recall a series I saw where they know that they have anti-metal technology up there. in the Arctic. Not us, but them, our ancestors, whoever there. And they have been trying to work past that metal, antimatter, force field, for a better word. And because it will make all of their weapons non-effective. Non-effective. And so that...
I'm sorry, go ahead, sis. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Probably what he got caught in. And they've been working, I heard, according to this documentary, they've been working to make their weaponry effective in that area, and it's not.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because after I saw the Ancient Aliens thing, a day or two later, there is a YouTube video floating around where this man over in Russia, there's this antimatter or gravity, anti-gravity portal that opened up. And so the man is standing over it, throwing, I don't know if it was a bottle or a can or whatever, and the shit kept kicking back out. And so I saw where other folks are saying that certain parts of the planet, that these same portals exist where gravity is defied, so meaning gravity is not applying to it. So I just find that interesting that, now all of a sudden they want to talk about the Arctic and the energy, and we'll get a little bit deeper into it.
Well, look at I'm going to apologize to Brother Sean, but for taking this moment. But look at the alert we just got.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
President.
And I think that all ties in. Let me bring on Brother Sean right quick, and then we can get back in.
Okay.
Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Peace and love, sis. I'm well. How about you?
I'm good.
Hey, brother.
Well, good to hear your voice.
How you doing, Sis Sandra?
I'm good, brother. And yourself?
Oh, I'm good. But about last week, I want you to know I was not going in on you.
No. You guys do that all.
I just got to put it out there. And I want the family to know, too. We all good on our end.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's good. We figured that. I mean, y'all both know I'm a fucking nut. I'll go on my rant, MFSB, up, down, sideways, round the world, and then come back. So it don't be personal against either of you. Just sometimes, I know for me, I can't speak for Brother Sean. I'm just assuming it happens to him also, that something just comes across from that spirit world, and you get that shit in, and that's where that conviction comes from. Because when we're doing these shows, constantly you're getting information sent to you.
It's spontaneous.
That's where the passion comes into play.
It's spontaneous. We don't even plan for this stuff.
No,
I don't have
we can't plan for it, sis.
We don't have no script.
We can't. I just pick a topic. I do the research. We put it out there and we go in. But it's all pretty much driven, off the cuff. And I know sometimes a lot of times it comes out of the spiritual realm but okay, sis, so you were saying about this motherfucking message. So I'm going to sip my water. Y'all go ahead on that. Give your 2 cents.
Remember, my son just sent you this video about the sun and all the objects that they see up there. And Putin, I'm going to get back to Putin now. They done beat him up. They beat him to death because he done told them already that they got to protect the earth. And they don't want to hear that. But yet they taking military money to do this space stuff, military, because they know what's in store for them, and they don't want to be, aware of it. They just want to, like, sweep it under the carpet. But that alert system he's doing is to track and to spy and to whatever else they're doing. Because 777, I didn't even hear it today, but, they're tracking everybody's positions with that, and as well as trying to kind of get some alert system just in case what they're viewing is going to be an issue for them. So that's what I'm picking up is they know what time of day it is because I'm going to go to the Mayans. Their time is up.
Yeah.
And they know it. It's been written.
Yeah.
It's not because they don't know or they're going to guess. And the problem is they're keeping everybody dumb and dumbed down because they're not being truthful with what is about to happen to this planet.
Wow.
But they
plan
all them Independence Day movies and stuff, I hear.
Oh, yeah. Well, most of Hollywood, they get them scripts. And shout out to Gemini Moon in the chat room, a first-time listener. Love you too, beloved. Welcome to the show. But most of those Hollywood scripts, especially them sci-fi scripts, I mean, what's that one show? And I just started looking at it and I dropped off, and then X-Files. X-Files told you that's what was the whole purpose of X-Files. They were telling you that that's where Hollywood is picking up most of their scripts. They're getting it from the alphabet boys. So it's twofold. A lot of it is agenda, meaning they want to control a narrative of what they want to put out. But when you get to the sci-fi stuff, they're being handed those scripts on what to do. So it either comes directly from government situations and files that has happened, and or it comes from a lot of the ancient texts, because dude that made Star Wars admitted. He said, I didn't invent Star Wars. I got this from various ancient texts. So most of these folks are not sitting down writing authentic scripts. It's being handed to them, and they're modifying it. So I'm sorry. Go ahead on, Brother Sean.
But NASA and Hollywood are one and the same. They're hand in hand. Because it's Hollywood that's pulling off all these special effects for NASA. Got people thinking they're going to the moon, or that they got picked up in outer space.
Right, because the Eyes Wide Shut guy was the one that produced the moon landing, right? I forget his name.
Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah. He the one produced that production. Absolutely, it's one and the same. So, Brother Sean, what's your take on the whole alert situation?
Well, basically, there's another distraction, and them showing you they got everybody's cell phone number, so that's another thing.
Which we knew that anyway.
Yeah, we all know that.
Exactly, but it's a lot of people that panics about that, because I've seen quite a few posts where people talk about, well, how do they get my number and this, that, and the other. It's all BS. I mean, you take down the cell phone towers, all that stuff over with. Ain't no satellite in space.
Right. Right.
It's a distraction, and it's also a part of the fact that Facebook been hacked, and no telling what else was hacked. But my thing is, why ain't they talking about what was hacked?
Right.
All this other stuff that's covering up the fact that it's breach. What was leaked in the breach?
Right, and what Facebook has, 3-something billion users, and so
corporate accounts, all type of business accounts, all type of stuff going on.
Right. So, my whole take on the alert thing. First, let's back up to say the exact time of when it happened, because when they said 2:18, I counted up the numbers because that's when they said it was going to happen on East Coast time. I said, oh, that's 11. That's manifestation. I said, these bitches doing a ritual and they can go fuck themselves. So that was the first thing. And then some people said that it showed up at they got the alert at 222 something, which is still manifestation. But mine came through at the 2:18 mark, which is 11 manifestation. So I knew it was a ritual trying to control energy, which don't nobody give a fuck about that shit that they talking about. But to me also, and I agree with both of you on the reasons why, Sis Sandra, just to add addition to what you were saying, they cannot hide any longer those planets. And remember when we talked about planets are really energy centers, because the extra territories is not above, but it's out. It's beyond. It's out. And those planets represents just vibratorial energies for each particular territory. So those extra planets that are energy centers that have come into the solar system, they already knew that they were going to come, because again, it was written in ancient text that this would happen when the age change, and especially the particular age that we are in now. So right now in the skies, and you just do a little research, and we've talked about this several times on this show, where they have the artificial sun up. So our sun is still there, and I believe really we have two suns, but our sun is there, but they put an artificial light in front of it. In addition to the light, they also have mirrors in the sky to reflect. So meaning as those new planets pass by, this light in this mirror, it blocks it out. You can't see it. And so it's getting harder for them to do that, because these particular energy centers / planets are getting even closer. So meaning no amount of blockage that they can do in the sky, no chemtrails, no mirrors, no lights, will be able to hide it. And supposedly that's what that whole New Mexico, when they shut down that particular sun observatory, and it was said, and I only seen one person come back with this, that the reason they shut that one down because that one was new technology that had the infrared cameras on there. So just like your son sent me that video, sis, that had the infrared cameras where you can put it up in the sky and you see, just like that video he showed me, you see all them fucking planets, all them additional planets around the sun. And then in some cases, I've seen videos where, in addition to the planets, you also see these orbs or some type of, I don't know, craft or whatever it is also. Okay? Now, so that is what's going on. I'm sorry, go ahead on, sis.
My time of the alert was 11:18, which is 11:09, which is 9:11. So they timed it perfectly for manifestation and alert.
Right.
But I was going to say something else, but you didn't put me on the. Never mind. I'll get my thought back. But it was just, I think, distraction for one,
yes,
and they're losing the grip on their own emotions. You could see they're going whacked out. They almost cursing each other out in front of you.
It's the energy. They cannot handle the energy because the energy has shifted on Mama.
Yeah.
And if you're not in tune, if you're not resonating, you're not going to survive. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
I was going to tell you this. When I turn on my computer, they're showing the Galactic Center. And they showed it last week and last week. They had different pictures of their like Wakanda, where he was in that area where the stars was in the back. That was the Galactic Center. Now, not too long ago, they said it's going to take us 300 years to get there, but you can see it with the naked eye right now. So this is the thing with the lights or the sun and all this kind of stuff, the artificial sun. That's called the proton belt that we're about to go through. And they said it depends on when the Earth goes through the center. They do it every 250,000 years, I guess. And when the Earth goes through the rift, it depends if the sun goes first or if the Earth goes first, how much sunlight we're going to get. So those artificial suns are probably going to work for the sun. If the sun, I think the sun goes first, then we will have darkness.
It's interesting that you say that. Just to add on to that, now the only thing I don't agree with them on, now this is just me.
Yeah.
We're stationary, and the sky is the one rotating.
True.
So it would have to be the sun.
Passing over us.
Right. That's going to go through it first. Now, I heard the reason that they're doing, another reason they're putting an alert out, did the little funky ass test, was that they are talking about a week, they're saying about a 2-week period where all of electronics and all of that is going to be kaput.
That's the null zone. That's the null zone. That's the null zone. There's going to be a time when nothing works. That's called the null zone, when we go through that rift. And it looks like it's imminent. But
they're talking about that photon belt, and that has something to do with it. But the main thing is the plasma energy.
Yeah, it's changing.
It's the electromagnetic energy coming up out of that Arctic. That's what's going to shake everything down and start tearing everything down, which is also the reason why. And on that Ancient Aliens, they talked about pole reversals, y'all. I can't make this shit up. They said that the poles will reverse, and it's not going to have that much impact on us, and it's not going to be noticeable. I was sitting there, y'all, like they got to be bullshitting me. You gonna sit up here and talk about pole reversals? We've been telling y'all this shit for years. But yeah, it all goes back to the electromagnetic energy, plasma energy coming out from the Arctic. Because remember that black sun, which is really the power generator for Mama Earth, and that's beneath the earth, that's what's generating everything, and it's getting the additional energies from the new planets that's coming to the solar system. So that's what's sparking the plasma and the electromagnetic energy to shoot across the planet, and that is changing the vibration. It's raising the vibration of the planet.
Now, Chief Willie,
Mhm.
Chief Willie said, just like you said,
he
regeneration of the planet. He said it's going to be a shaking going on. Remember that shaking that's going to go on? He said.
Yep.
It's going to, because you can't just switch the poles with no shaking. Because everything's going to be topsy-turvy when the poles go. And Dr. Phil Valentine said it's going to separate the wheat from the chaff. I'm just paraphrasing what he said. Because the ones that can't stand the vibration is going to be destroyed, and the ones that can is going to ride on through safely.
Right. And in addition to the shaking, there'll be the fires.
Yeah, be the fires.
And there's going to be massive flooding.
Mhm.
So absolutely, in agreement with you all on that. So I'm real quick. Before I go into the go head on with the fuckery, Brother Sean, that you have something that you wanted to discuss with the family. We kind of talked about it offline about the whole Kanye stuff.
The 13th Amendment, which people refuse to read.
Yeah.
Everybody mad at this brother, and all he done was tell the truth.
It's truth.
You do something to go to jail, you're a slave again. They
That's
tell
true.
you that. Slavery is abolished unless you commit a crime.
Yep.
That's where things get shaky at, though. What's actually a crime? Are people actually being put into slavery for real crimes?
Right.
Or are we dealing with more of those black codes and statutes and legalities?
Statutes and codes, right.
Kanye was right on the money, and people hate on him. All he done was told an uncomfortable truth. They may not have liked his delivery, but
Right.
Wait, he can go so far as to say the 14th Amendment too is put you in servitude. So all of those
that really would blow their mind. That really would have blew their mind. First, they need to motherfucking just look at the simple 13th Amendment. That shit is blatant. If you can read, you can see the contrast and say, oh, I see what he's talking about. So let's start with that.
Yeah, but they don't pay no attention. They just, oh, what? Everybody gets off.
Jump to conclusions, jump to the narrative of what the press says, or the media, and not do their own research. And then, Brother Sean, that video you sent me on Facebook, where the one brother broke it down from a business perspective why Kanye was saying that. I was like, if you want to share that with the family.
He's trying to break it to the clothing industry, and he got to pay all this money to get his stuff made. But all these retail places and major retailers that we know about, they get their stuff done for pennies in prisons.
Yep.
They get prison labor.
Yep.
Yep.
Big retail people, too.
Exactly. So he was basically, once again, putting people up on game. This is not the first time he talked about slavery. The first time he was talking about it from a mental slavery perspective. And people didn't get that. Now he's telling you how the prison system is the slavery system, and really it never changed from before when they and we talked about this last week. We did a damn good job telling you all who the first slaves were in this nation, meaning the folks that they are calling immigrants from back in the 1700s and the 1800s were really the Slavs, or which means slavery, which they renamed indenture servants. Okay, it's the same fucking system. They just switched it to incarceration, and the melanated people are the ones of the brunt of it, okay? And that started happening to us after, quote, quote, what they call slavery was abolished, which was really to release the white people from slavery, and then supposedly and allegedly release the melanated folks from slavery, which we really wasn't in slavery because we were prisoners of war. We had been defeated, but that's a separate story. But after that, that's when the Jim Crow laws, they started coming up with that, and it was one particular thing, black code laws. So black code laws, all that motherfucking bullshit, that if you didn't have employment, they would lock you the fuck up, okay? So all of those things started to come into play to stop the melanated folks that are indigenous to the land from staking any claim to the land, because they had to bring up the Europeans, the white folks, and put them in the position to build this system that we see today. Okay, so that's what that was about. And so the melanated people continue to be the ones that suffered under this new, what they call incarceration or penitentiary system, but it was really just a new slavery system.
You know, I was seeing a documentary on how we got our titles, and it was showing that they couldn't enslave us as Indians. But once they captured you, they changed your title and changed you to the Negro, black, colored, mulatto, African American. And when they did that, they would post ads in the paper and name you those things. And then they did it on the census. Every time the census came around, they would have mulatto, and then they'd cross it out and write Negro, and they or colored or whatever. And those titles that so many people are so proud to have, 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment stuff, they're so proud to wear those titles of African American, black, Negro, colored, and all this foolish stuff. That's your slave titles. Because if you go back to your original man, because Negro means origin backwards. If you go back to your title that is you, your tribe, and all that kind of stuff, say you can't be a slave. You don't have it. They don't have any authority to enslave you. Exactly. But this is what people want, and they give up the land, they give up the rights, they give it all up. And Kanye said it right. That 13th Amendment, he didn't talk about the 14th, but you go there,
blew everybody away.
Yeah, you go on the 14th Amendment and vote for them to keep you enslaved.
Exactly.
You give them your power.
Exactly. You give them jurisdiction over you.
You give them jurisdiction over you with that 14th Amendment. And for all of you, the right to vote, it was for white folks, not for you.
Exactly, because you're indigenous to the land.
Indigenous, you don't want them over you. So, our people have just been hit. What'd you say about his history?
What, his story?
Yeah, his story. That's his story. That's not your story. Why you worried about this Kavanaugh dude? Who cares? Why you worried about who?
I'm so tired of seeing posts on that. I don't know what to do. Totally agree.
I mean,
1,000% agree.
You give them your power, your authority to rule over you. The more you keep doing what they say do is the more you lose. And I'm going to put it out there. That's what your titles are making you do. Separate you from this land.
Yes.
They do nothing to you in your original titles, but they do everything to you under colorable law. And this guy that got killed, I guess it's in Atlanta, Florida, whatever, where the chick went into his house and shot him.
Mhm.
And she lived upstairs.
Right, the cop. Yeah.
The attorney they have, because I think they're African or Jamaican, which is American. When he fights his case, I saw some of what his statements were. He's going to fight under colorable law. And because people need to understand that these titles are colorable law, you're going to listen to this man tell you what your color black means for you. You get your law dictionary and figure it out. And African American, those are colorable titles. And we keep using those titles. And because our wonderful people who killed some of the leaders that were trying to set you free from all this foolishness they didn't put on you, they killed them.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that, he started this. No, he didn't. Some of them started, they were cheating us, but then they got the light at the end, but it was too late.
Right.
But, I'm getting off my soap, okay.
No, you good, sis. You good. You allowed your soapbox like anybody else. But,
but people got to understand, how many times have you had your name changed since you've been alive? 5, 6?
Yep.
And how many times have they changed other people's racist titles? None.
Yep.
Why are they doing that to you?
Right.
Black man, that's a bad title. Colored man, that's a bad title. Negro, that's a bad title. African American, that's a bad title. So why are they doing that to you? Why you?
Right.
Have you ever thought about that? They've taken you from your possession, your ancestral heritage. They are stealing the land.
Absolutely.
And they're taking away your freedom.
Absolutely. Well said, sis. And, just to add on to that, once again, this is about know thyself, know thy bloodline. It's your responsibility to trace back your heritage, your bloodline through your family members, especially if you have an elder that's in there starting at age 70 on up, 80s. I guarantee you can get a wealth of information from them, or get your butt online on them computers, start tracing back your heritage through marriage certificates, death certificates, tax records, go to the local county offices for the National Archives, state archives, and the archives in Washington, D.C. But it is each one of your responsibility to know thyself. That's what it's all about. That is why they were able to do what they did, because we didn't know who we were. Although Grandma and them was telling us, Big Mama and them was telling us, our family got land. You got Indian, we got Indian in the family. They were telling us that. But the school overrode what Big Mama and them said, that your ancestry were brought over on slave ships. Or brother so-and-so that in the Pan-African movement told you XYZ. So now you're in the age to know thyself. Because as Mama Earth continues to shift her vibration to the higher realms, everybody got to be where the fuck they supposed to be. And it's going to, more and more, you're going to start to see that. And we're going to do a show in a couple of weeks that where we're going to even go in deeper, how deep it goes regarding land. We're going to do that. Okay. So with the go ahead on with the fuckery, y'all. This is mine for the week. Elon Musk. We got to talk about this. He was made to step down off out of the position as CEO, because supposedly and allegedly it was so much controversy with him. The last controversy was when he had got caught on camera smoking the joint. So I'm going to just once again remind the family so we can just be clear and just pay attention. Elon Musk did not personally motherfucking sit down and create that technology. Okay? And as Brother Sean eloquently pointed out, the shit don't work no way that he didn't create it. And he's using the ancient technology. Okay? And they still can't get the shit to work the way they want it to work. Okay? He did not come up with that. He didn't even go back and dust the shit out of some pile from doing research and him doing experiments. He was put into place as an quote, quote, actor to play the role of Elon Musk, for the sole purpose to be the face of the artificial intelligence agenda, as well as the agenda for the Mars colonization / space program. Okay? That's why he's being put before the public. So pay attention. So now supposedly they're going to be moving him out of that, the cars, the Tesla cars row. You're going to see him now going even more on the side of that space program, specifically geared towards Mars. Okay? Because all of this talk about Mars, it's a colonization, definitely, but it's even a deeper meaning, and we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. So that's my go ahead on with the fuckery about supposedly and allegedly them making Elon Musk step down. You know, they trying to put up that persona that, you know, somebody has it in for him and he's this genius, they're misunderstanding him. No. Believe you me, he is a part of the script. They created him. He didn't create his own way. They created him. So that's my go ahead on with the fuckery this week. I'll pause.
I just want to add something. My neighbor approached me, and he said he's done put in the application to get off this planet. I said, and go to Mars? I was so shocked. He said, yes. I said, okay. I was speechless. So I don't talk.
No, you're not supposed to. And if I may ask, and you don't have to tell me, is he melanated or Caucasian man?
He's the halfway mark.
Okay.
Mexican, Hispanic.
Okay, he's mixed. He's mixed. Well, that's interesting, but yeah, that's the agenda that they're pushing.
To get him off the planet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to get his wife, who's my sister-in-law called him Ghost. He's trying to get her to listen to him, and she's not listening. But I said, ooh, okay, all righty. He said because
really
a lot of things about
first of all, I didn't know it was an application, so you taught me.
Yeah, I didn't either. I said, you are? Really? He said, yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, that's going to be interesting. Well, you just confirmed it, that's what's shaking down. Wow.
Box them out.
What you say, Brother Sean? Uh-oh. Did we lose your Brother Sean?
I'm good.
Oh, okay. All right, so, sis, did you have a go-ahead on with the fuckery?
No, I already did mine.
Okay. Oh, Brother Sean, did you have anything you wanted to add? Okay.
No, I'm good.
Sorry. Okay. All righty. So, we're going to move along and get into the main topic tonight, which is the land and the bloodline. Okay, so I've already talked to you all about in the opening of the show, the inspiration for this particular topic is that I saw two movies dealing with the Aboriginals in Australia, that particular theme, and it was dealing with colonization and land. Okay, so I'm going to go into explaining those movies and tying all this together. But before I do that, just to make you all aware, to show you how the land and the bloodlines is going to continuously be brought to the forefront, because again, this is about vibratorial changes that is going on this planet. Okay, and Brother Sean said it eloquently. I just kept saying that everybody got to return back to where they're supposed to be. And then he came out and dropped a bombshell and said, yeah, because it's a vibration thing, and that, folks aren't going to survive if they're not in the right place. Okay, so that's what all of this fuss is about, immigration, this, and that. I do want to bring to the forefront, and a lot of you probably already know this, that China has been kicking up a lot of stuff where they're over in Africa doing a lot of things. Okay, so folks have been showing videos of some of the folks over in China literally getting into it with the indigenous folks over in Africa. Okay, they've been fighting and stuff, the different culture clashes. So I started, looking just in the mainstream media, if anyone has been talking about this. So Forbes magazine put out on August 4th of this year, what is China doing in Africa? There's Chinese corporations all over Africa. In June 2017, McKinsey & Company report estimates that there are more than 10,000 Chinese-owned firms operating in Africa. What are Chinese corporations doing in Africa? That's a highly controversial issue. The reason Chinese corporations are in Africa is simply to exploit the people and take their resources. It's the same thing European colonists did during the mercantile times, except worse. The Chinese corporations are trying to turn Africa into another continent. They are squeezing Africa for everything it is worth. This is the view several African politicians have. The Zambian politician Mata was one of them. At least he was before being elected president of Zambia in 2011. He wrote a paper presented to Harvard University in 2007 that said European colonial exploitation in comparison to Chinese exploitation appears benign, because even though the commercial exploitation was just as bad, the colonial age also invested in social and economic infrastructure services. Chinese investments, on the other hand, is focused on taking out of Africa as much as can be taken out, without any regard to welfare of the local people. And so this, they quoted him, the nature of Chinese capitalism in Africa. Sai's bold position got some support by a deadly blast at an explosive factory partly owned by Chinese state killing 50 Zambian workers. Africa's equities have underperformed emerging markets. Globalization managed to skip Africa by for years. There were several reasons for this. Africa was considered to have poor infrastructure, political instability, and low income. The trade in oil, gas, gems, metal, and rare earth minerals wreaked havoc in Africa. During the years when Brazil, India, and China, other emerging markets, have transformed their economies, Africa resource states remain tethered to the bottom of the industrial supply chain. Tom Burgess, The Looting of Africa. While Africa accounts for 30% of the world's reserve of hydrocarbons, now notice that, pay attention, hydrocarbons and minerals, and 14% of the world's population, its share of global manufacturing stood in 2011 exactly where it stood in 2000 at 1%. Everything changed when China came along. The country was desperate for raw materials and energy to power their growing manufacturing capacity. They put Africa on the globalization map. The continent was placed right next to Shanghai in terms of Beijing's business practices or priorities, okay? So that's pretty big because Shanghai is the capital of business for China. So if they were placing Africa on the same par as Shanghai for business and investment, pretty huge. Okay, so Africa was at the top of Beijing's economic agenda. It was an easy and convenient target. Chinese leaders sent business delegates to every capital in Africa year after year. These delegates secured infrastructure projects and proposed trade deals, converting Africa into a second continent for China. Metaphorically, that is. I found that interesting that they threw metaphorically in there. But anyway, Howard W. French described the situation in the book China's Second Continent, sensing that Africa has been cast aside by the West in the wake of the Cold War. Beijing saw the continent as the perfect proving ground for some Chinese companies to cut their teeth in international business. It certainly not hurt that Africa was also the repository of an immense share of global resources, raw materials that were both vital for China's extraordinary ongoing industrial expansion and for its across-the-board push for national reconstruction. The long arm of globalization has touched Africa. Trade between China and the second continent of Africa rose to $300 billion in 2015. Not everyone feels that China is attempting to turn Africa into a Chinese colony, though. One such person is Ching-Kwan Lee, a professor at the University of California. Lee argued in The Specter of Global China, Politics, Labor, and Foreign Investment in Africa, that the investments the Chinese state made in Africa weren't made as imperialists or colonists, nor were ones by private corporations. Chinese corporations aren't being motivated by profits. They have a long-term horizon in mind, and they make for good local citizens. Interesting, that citizen situation. Anyhow, the Chinese people in Africa pay their fair share of taxes to the countries they do business with. Lee goes so far to contend that the Chinese corporations actually promote African independence and autonomy rather than the usual dependency that is associated with colonialism. China is helping Africa to stay stand by themselves rather than making Africa dependent on them. Maybe it would be best to avoid sharing this opinion with the Pakistanians and Sri Lankans that are heavily indebted to China. These are the people that are at most risk of becoming modern-day colonies for Beijing. So again, this article was out of Forbes. It came out August 4th of this year, and it's called "What is China Doing in Africa?" So I'll pause in case
okay.
Brother Sean, Brother Sean dropped off. Go ahead, sis. Let me see.
I got it. Now, there's a sneaky peek in everything you do. People get real sneaky, come in there backhanded, and they offer you help. But they're not offering help for no reason. Africa has a lot.
Brother Sean. Mm-hmm.
And
you
very
go ahead on, sis and Sean. I have to pay my water bill. I drink too much water. Go ahead on, sis. I'll be right back.
But the one thing about China is that they're also in Jamaica. Yeah. And in Jamaica, they're stealing the resources and they're building their resorts and they're closing off areas to the native people of the land. They're changing their names. They're taking their property, and all in the name of building up this place. Not only are they using their laborers, they work them 12 hours a day sometimes, and they don't even pay them, according to the documentary I read. So Jamaica is being colonized because they're changing the people's titles. They're not giving them their original name. I forget the name of the people Sister Moon said is their title. It starts with an A, I think. But they're calling them Jamaicans. And Jamaican is a colonized title. Just like this U.S. government stuff has colonized us by changing our titles. So China is colonizing. And they are backstabbing liars if they say they're not, because that's the marks of colonization. They're not telling the truth. And Africa is getting upset with all these people when they're trying to take their resources. But the United States was in there first with Operation African, whatever it was. I forget what it was. Obama was there, and they did not keep their word. So China said, they're not keeping their word, so let's go build up their infrastructure and help them out. But they also have big equipment taking out all resources out of that land. So copper is very important because there's also some kind of rock that they use in cell phones. So therefore, they're going to corner the market in cell phone because there's some kind of magnetic or piece of rock that is very important to your cell phone, like that LCD LED batteries and all that kind of stuff. And they're using child labor to go in those dangerous fields and pick this stuff up for your cell phone. And China is doing that in Africa. They're building in Jamaica and cutting the natives off from their own land. So who says, Professor who? Lee? I wonder what his origins were originally. That he would write an article so biased as that.
Yeah,
and said China is colonized.
He's from China. He is from China, so we definitely have to look at that for what it is. Absolutely.
Yeah, so, China is just another form of colonization. They came in there with big bucks when we needed. Like Gaddafi tried to get satellites, internet for the Africa and build their own armies, and look what happened to him. They killed him because they, what was that name of that? The name that they wanted to go in there and take all of Africa. So they killed Gaddafi because he wanted to help them and not rape them. So these people got together as Britain, the United States, and some other countries and took down Gaddafi. But our people will fall for the old okie doke every time that the big bad wolf is coming to help you, and then they're gonna rule the day. And that's just the way it is. And I'm done.
Right, Brother Sean.
The thing is, I don't see how anybody could honestly look at China or any Asian as a fucking hero. They're the mongoloids. They're the mongrels. So, I mean, they don't get no fucking pass and all of this shit. They've been colonizing. They've been sending all their goddamn extra garbage everywhere. They've been doing it. They're just not getting off into certain places like the mountains up in Jamaica and this, that, and the other. But these little dirty rat bastards been doing this. And they started right there with the melanated people that were originally there.
Right. The original melanated folks in China that they ran up out of there, and it's said that some of that original bloodline, they retreated and are living in the mountains, and they consider them sacred, and they're the ones that are the ancient ancestors that keep putting out the prophecy that this shit is going to be flipped, via the vibrations. So, I agree with you both. Now, in addition to back to Africa, that's why, I guess the spirit led me to do this topic about the land and bloodlines. Now, here, Africa is rich in resources underneath their feet. Okay, so within the land, but they cannot seem to get their shit together. You have pockets that's getting their shit together, saying that we're not having it, because that's what that whole thing in South Africa is about, of returning the land back over to the indigenous bloodlines, okay? But then you have others who are still under the spell of colonization, and they're still buying into this concept that they need leaders to speak on their behalf, that they still need these political systems to speak on their behalf. And it is these political systems who are a part of all of these secret society orders that are cutting the motherfucking deal for the resources.
Yes. I forgot to tell you the title of it. You're going to love it. It's called Afrikaan. Remember, conning folk?
Conning. Contract, absolutely. Absolutely. So China, let's get back to China. Let's get on their motherfucking ass. Okay? China is looking to try to be the next superpower across the planet. So meaning replacing the Western system, and if you want to get into specifics, the dollar, because the dollar is dead and all that bullshit, and they're trying to say that the yuan will be the next world reserve currency. Okay, so that's also what this expansion is about, because remember, they want to keep the fuckery going with this colonization system. So that's what it's about. So switching from the Western society saying, okay, now it's your time in the East, and guess what? Mama Earth's telling you bitches it ain't either one of your time, because all of this shit is going to be shut down. Okay? But the people that are the heirs to the specific land masses is responsible for cleaning up their consciousness to, just from even a conscious perspective, say that we do not want, nor do we need any of these systems in place to rule over us and make these decisions. We do not need you to come over here and dig in our soil, pulling out our motherfucking precious resources in exchange for your fucking fiat. We don't need your roads, your fiat, to give us money to build roads and all of that. Fuck your fiat. Long as I have the land, I can work the land, get me some food about this motherfucking land, I'm good. That is what is supposed to be happening across this planet. And for those that do not get on that page from a consciousness perspective, will suffer the consequences as the vibrational change and this shift continue. Okay? So not only is China motherfucking stinking ass trying to be slick and rename colonization in Africa, them bitches are over in Dominican Republic. When I was there, I saw a lot of the road, which I'll never, ever fucking go back, because that's a different story. That whole Dominican and Haiti, goddammit, that's not right. That's Haiti. Fuck about the land being split with an artificial border, and you're going to rename the people based on colonization. And you fucking starving one side, the Haitians, because they fought back and put that boom-doon on your stinking ass. And you lifted up the Dominicans. So Dominicans, you have a price to pay. When you sitting up there going along with that bullshit. And right next door to you, on the same fucking landmass, are your brothers and sisters. And you have bought into the colonization color bullshit, you're not going to get away with it, nor are you going to get a fucking pass for it. You have to answer for that. Each and every one that participates in it, you have to answer for it, because you're literally trying to starve out the Haitians. Because they would not comply with the colonization and the slavery and the bullshit. Okay? So, China is over in Dominican motherfucking building roads and buildings. So they're getting funding on that side. Okay? Then, if you pay attention to the continent of Asia, different little Asian nations are complaining. Cambodia is one of the nations. I just saw a damn good documentary on YouTube, by the way. YouTube putting out more good documentary where the people are putting them out there than the fucking television. But anyhow, it's a documentary on YouTube that talks about China colonizing Cambodia through business. Okay? So here's the thing, family. China is trying to span out and colonize the world just like the Europeans did. It's not going to work because we're not in that age. Now, what each particularly folks are supposed to be doing is to concentrate on their own land mass. So meaning Africa, clean your own motherfucking shit up. You have everything you need to clean your shit up. Get back into that land, get back into tune the way the fuck you supposed to. Sweep around your own landmass doorstep. That can only happen from within. China, it ain't nobody's motherfucking fault that you done picked up bad westernized ways and you got small city, you done outgrew, don't nobody give a fuck about none of that. Clean up your own shit. Now, the only thing I will give China slightly a pass on is that they are correct. All of them other little split up nations, Cambodia, any of that shit that sits on that Asian coast is Asia. Okay? Bottom line, that's what they all need to fucking concentrate on. Clean up your own shit. And the individual people, you don't need these governing bodies to do that for you. It starts with self. Because they're not tied to the land through blood. You're tied to the land through blood. You are not their priority. Their priority is to whatever secret society order they are beholden to. That's who their master is, not the land. The land is, they know, is what the wealth is through. The wealth is through the land and through you. But only you as individuals, from a conscious perspective, can stop colonization for yourself and your bloodline. That these are the things that we're seeing. So all that they are trying to do is reverse it. So meaning that the West had the control on colonization. Now they think they can switch it to China. But it's still the same script, the same game that they are trying to play. The only difference is the shit's not going to work because of the vibration of the planet herself. But anyone that is not resonating with the planet's vibration and you are not in the correct place where she tells you to be, not where the fuck you want to be, where she tells you to be. Because your bloodline, hence your DNA, hence your vibration, is tied to a specific landmass. There's going to be huge consequences for folks who aren't where the fuck they supposed to be. Okay, so I'll pause in case somebody want to put something on it. I know that was a mouthful.
Yeah. Yeah, my thing is, it's not that they then became accustomed to Western life. Thing is, that all this that's going on over here is the bullshit that was brought from over there. They just not getting their own shit back.
True. True that. You mean Africa. You mean Africa.
Yeah. Africa and China. I mean, they destroyed everything over there first, enslaved each other, turned on each other. They done all that bullshit while we was over here living lovely.
Chilling, goddammit, chilling.
I mean, if people read Christopher Columbus, he was like, these people over here chilling. They don't give a fuck about nothing. They give away everything.
Right. They don't give a fuck about this gold. We didn't have no concept. Oh, you want this? Oh, shit, we see that all the time. Go ahead on, homie. You know, you a guest.
Right.
You a guest, help yourself. Oh, you like that shiny stone? Oh, that white one, that green one, that red one, that brown one. Go on, homie. Yeah, go on and do a little sample of that. Oh,
they
you
was
ain't
the
never
ones
had
obsessed by that stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
We already had it in Goo Gobs where it didn't even matter to us.
Exactly. Very, very excellent point, Brother Sean. And I mean, shit, you're right. It's basically the same group of people looking for different places to control and excavate the resources off of the land.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, folks, those that sit back and you continue to let the fuckery happen, you fucking with your own bloodline.
Right.
We should have learned this lesson, especially in the Americas. I'm not going to speak on Africa and over in Europe, because as Brother Sean said, they have been destroyed, they shit. Just recently in the Americas, because we were the last ones came over here fucking with. We should know, once you allow people to violate, rape, disrespect the land, that impacts your motherfucking bloodline.
Right.
Because you are tied to the land.
And I couldn't remember the names in my tirade, but they're called Arawaks.
Yes.
Sister Moon, they're Arawaks. The Jamaicans are the Arawaks.
Jamaicans. Yep, they're the Arawaks.
And they're not Jamaicans, Arawaks. And because we accept them title changes, them name changes, Negroes, blacks, coloreds, African American, that's what gets us to lose. Because they don't change their title, they're Chinese. They've been Chinese for centuries.
Right.
But they come over and change the people's titles. And they're telling the people in Jamaica that they came from Africa. But if you look back in the history of this country, they used to capture us and ship us out of Carolina, out of the Carolinas, and ship us to the islands. So they captured at least 10,000 of us a year. And they had some of us hunting us down to get us. Because Indians hunting Indians, and they would ship us to the islands. And now they're over there, China is over there in the islands, talking about they come from Africa. These are Africans here. So they think that they give the right to enslave you because you didn't let them enslave you with your titles.
The first
like
time,
I said earlier.
The first time.
China,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
China is a corporate name, too, because the original people there was melanated. So, I mean, they fucking slaves, too, just by that name.
Absolutely. Because if you really want to bring it back, and I see you, A32, brother, I'm coming to you. If you really want to bring it back, I said before, only four continents: Arctic, Americas, Africa, Asia. That's motherfucking it. The rest of this bullshit is man-made. Dominican, Haiti, Jamaica, you are Americas. You're part of the motherfucking Americas.
That's right.
So I don't give a fuck what deal you think you striking with any of these bitches. It's null and void. That's a part of the Americas shit. And we're shutting all of that down. So that's why everybody is goddamn being put on notice. That think you going behind the scenes striking up a motherfucking deal. It's null and void. It's not legal. It's not valid. Story. Now, I'm just speaking on the motherfucking Americas. What Africa do, Africans clean up your own shit. What Asia and Europe do, clean up your own motherfucking shit. But you're being put on notice. As far as these Americas, you don't have any standing. And that's including the Caribbeans. Get the fuck on with the bullshit. We see it for what it is. Those are the same people. I don't give a fuck if they was on the islands or whether or not they was on the mainland. Bitch, it's Americas. And we're not having none of that. We don't want any of it. We never signed on to any of it. That's y'all corporate bullshit. So you just signed up shitty deals that you'll never be fucking able to collect on. Okay, so let me go to 832, and then we're going to continue on. Here we go. Peace and love, 832. Your line is open.
Rhonda, Sandra, my sisters from other misters.
Peace, brother.
John,
Peace, brother.
My brother from another mother. Can I get down with it?
Yes.
We're gonna do a movie. We're gonna do a movie review since you forgot to go back in the time. We're way back in the time of the walk about and think yourself the last wave. I'm gonna throw on that log. Australia. Have you seen the newest one with Nicole Kidman, Hugh Jackman, and that little boy, Nala, that center character? We'll put a pin in that for a minute because I was calling to shake Sandra's memory about Arawaks. She is correct. But just yesterday, you want to talk about the universe circling in. A good friend of mine called me from Jamaica, so I'm going to relay this specific story. When you're talking about China, you might want to underscore at some point the One Belt, One Road concept, which is worldwide. It is the ancient Silk Road that they are intending to replicate. So whether you do a show on that or not, you may want to look at the ramifications of that historically and draw a timeline up into contemporary times, because these are the attempts that are being made by what is called the One Belt, One Road. Now, having said that, in Jamaica specifically, what this good brother shared with me, they have spent over $700 million on a particular highway that they are controlling 100%. Then, in a negotiated settlement, however the hell that works, they took control over 100% of the water rights. Then they turned the road into a toll road, telling the Jamaicans, or as Sandra said, the Arawaks, my native land, that they must pay them back with a toll road. You already know how that is not only illegal, but it is in total opposition to public works. It's my goddamn tax money, and I don't care if it came foreignly invested to put a public project in on my soil. That's like me paying rent on my own house.
True that.
That's what continues to go on here. That is imperialism. I don't care what flavor you slap it, flip it, rub it down. I mean, that's what it is. You charging to come in my shit, ain't gonna charge me to use my shit.
Right.
I mean, okay, just put a pin on that for a second. In addition, now we've talked about this repeatedly, where they are using. You said there's over 10,000 quote unquote companies, but there are tens of thousands of soldiers and troops going over there impregnating the native women. And the purpose of that agenda is to hope that those, whatever you want to call them, amalgamated, mixed blood, half-breed, mulatto, whatever the term you think they're going to come up with as a title, as Sandra has pointed out, I believe originally, before the Asian term was created, they used to reference them as Malay in anthropological studies. What is the Malay? M-A-L-A-Y. The country is now called Malaysia. But what is a Malay? Was Malay the term that's Aborigine in Australia? And I will point this out as I continue discussion with my good brother, Dane. In the Constitution, now, I'm always 100% in the same lane with Sean about fuck the paperwork. However, since the system hasn't changed yet, we do have to create a process based on paperwork until we can get back into time, and the way things may have been or should be. However, in the Constitution, it is stated, Indians not taxed. Not Negro, not black, not colored, not African American. The only legal standing we have on paper, and again, it's by them creating a title specific to us, is Indians not taxed. Why? Because Indians on the reservations and Indians taxed are those fraudulent $5 motherfuckers they created. Those Mongoloid, Caucasian, hybrids mixed with those few who, as people do, they get a little jungle fever, right? They get a little of that, what do you call that? Computer love,
right?
And you can't hate on your child.
No, you're not supposed to. Right?
Okay, so now back to the movie review. You remember about in Australia, that little boy who they call Creamy? that was their term, like niggas. He said, I ain't not white fella. I ain't not black fella. I ain't creamy. Meaning Toby. Okay?
Yep.
She said, I think you said that was a contract. Sister Sandra was referenced as African, Afra-CON. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, that's what I was saying, brother.
And who created that contract? This was the Chinese calling it African in Africa, which is part of the One Belt, One Road system that I just described. Do you know what those Dutch alien invading colonizer bastards spoke in Pretoria?
African.
In Zimbabwe? Yes.
African.
African. K-A-A-N-S. You know what their term, nigger, is over there? Kafir. Do you remember that Lethal Weapon 2 movie when that white, bigoted South African, whatever you want to call it, ambassador or whatever, was committing all that hideous, illegal activity on American soil? He would jump up and say, diplomatic immunity. And he was aiming that 38 special at him. He said, has been revoked, and put a bullet right in his pineal gland. Okay? When you remember that story through that little baby, you're going to go to whatever you want to share with us about the walkabout and the last wave. It was from the miscegenation of that basic white male overseer, right? And his abusing his Aboriginal mother.
Right.
And how much she struggled to keep him from speaking when they were in the water tower where she drowned. To keep him from being stolen away and put into those Catholic school systems, which is similar to the quote-unquote Indian schools that was put on us and our ancestors that created the little red brick schoolhouse on the slave plantation, which most folks don't know in American history. That is the history of public school systems. They didn't educate poor white trash. They didn't give a damn about no Appalachian hillbilly cracker. Okay? The whole purpose, as Dane has pulled on us and now is getting us to realize, is the creation of indoctrination. That was the whole intention of the school system, was to indoctrinate the Aboriginal, autochthonous people who are, like I said the last time we talked, the literal blood and soil is us.
That's right.
And I'm going to yield on this by saying the same thing I say every time we bring this discussion up. When we go to the base of the Statue of Liberty, where it says right there at her feet, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Your time is up. Isn't that what they're putting out as a hashtag now with the Me Too movement? Your time is up. And you got to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. And I yield.
Yes, exactly. And we will throw them a barbecue. Don't forget to throw that in. But yes, brother, peace and love. Thank you, brother 832. Excellent information that he was putting out. Thank you for sharing that once again. And I forgot about that movie. I didn't forget about the Australia movie. I didn't want to rewatch it now. Since you done brought it up, I'm going to have to go back and watch it again because I actually saw it in the movie theater. The cinematography was absolutely breathtaking, but it was really, really hard to watch. It's another slavery movie being replayed. So shit like that is painful for me to watch, and, I enter and understand why, because my soul will not take in such negative vibes, and that's one of the reasons I didn't want to watch it again. But since he brought it up, I am going to go back and rewatch it. But before I forget, that documentary that I was telling you all, and thank you, brother, for bringing up the New Silk Road, because that's what China's motherfucking stinking ass is trying to call it, and it's the one-way belt documentary on YouTube that I was describing. It's 47 minutes. But I'm telling you, y'all, it's all of that. It's off of a YouTube channel called Channel News Asia. Channel News Asia. And the title of this particular video is called How Will China's New Silk Road Change Thailand and Cambodia? Yeah, because Thailand was the other Asian nation that they talked about as well. So that's YouTube channel is named Channel News Asia. The name of the video is How Will China's New Silk Road Change Thailand and Cambodia? And they're going to in there talk about this New Silk Road and how throughout China, it is very well known that this is the business strategy of corporate China with this New Silk Road. And they're calling it, just like Brother said, a one-way beltway. So they're looking at these other nations, part of that beltway. Okay, so Thailand, Cambodia, etc. Okay, but make no mistake about it, it is the same colonialism / corporate fiction. Okay? It is not lawful or de jure, and it's just a mask of trying to repeat the same fuckery of the colonization system that the West has stood up. So thank you so very much for that, brother, for bringing that up. Because, yes, that new China Silk Road is exactly what they're trying to implement. So I'll pause in case Brother Sean or Sis, you want to put something on it.
It's just a face left on it. They just using another scapegoat.
Yes.
And
totally
to
agree.
me, it's still melanated people behind this shit.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt in my mind.
Now, I mean, it may be more quote-unquote Chinese to have to deal with than it is quote-unquote white people, but Chinese, they're not all one people. They from different tribes, this, that, and the other. They got their differences and everything just like everybody else.
Right.
Majority of this is just an illusion. These
it's all an
fuckers
illusion.
Don't have none of the power. They don't have majority of the power that they say they have.
No.
So they write this stuff down. They leak it out. They have us repeat it over and over again and give energy into it till we become weak simply by the words. And they actually never have the goddamn power or the hold
in the first place. Right. Because we're granting it
until
to them,
we get it to
them. Exactly.
So, we have to get to the point where we are karma. It ain't about waiting for shit. If life is lived in the moment, why do we keep waiting for a specific date?
Right.
A traitor jump up, cut his fucking head off, be done with it. We at war. Keep it moving. They ain't got no problem with doing one of us here and keeping it moving. I mean, we shouldn't have to keep talking about these same dumb fucks all over and over and over again. We know who the agents are. Why not take care of them? I mean, these brothers out here that talking about they warriors ready to bang this, that, or the other, but you sit up and smile with enemies all the time.
On the regular.
I'm talking about the ones that look like you.
Right.
They're the most dangerous ones.
Absolutely.
You see the white man coming a mile away. But that nigga that's up in your house, smiling in your face every day.
Yep.
Holding your children.
Yep.
That's the most dangerous person.
totally agree.
We
Totally agree.
We can't be worried about what's going on outside of here. We talk about China, Africa, none of that, because all of them just want to continue to take from here. Everything that they're doing, any place else, is a distraction or a road to here.
Agreed.
So we just need to take care of our business here.
Yep.
We fought them off. We fought off the whole world for thousands upon thousands of years until we turned on each other.
Yep. That's the only way they could get in.
So when we do what we need to do, and everybody out, including the traders, because the chain is only as strong as its weakest link.
Right.
I mean, nature show you that.
Yeah.
I mean, you could take an eagle. They can have two birds in there. The weakest one may get kicked out, if not eaten by its sibling.
Right. Or mama take it out of its misery. Right.
Right. But,
Right. Very, very good point, Brother Sean. That's why we keep stating, clean up your own bloodline, sweep around your own doorstep. It starts internally first. Changing your consciousness starts with there first, then with your bloodline. Okay? So I 1000% agree with you. But looking at it from the broader level, I'm putting the awareness out there to the family that this is what's going on. Everyone on their particular landmass that their bloodline is tied to need to be focused on their own shit. Africa, clean up your motherfucking shit. Europe and Asia, get your motherfucking regular ass shit together, because you're not going to be able to colonize anymore, not over in the Americas. Fuck you do on the motherland masses is a different story, which you're not even going to be able to do that long either, because mama going to come up and clean up all this shit. So if you don't want to cooperate, you still think you all that in the bag of chips, that whatever agreement you done signed up with, you will be dealt with from the vibratorial nature perspective. If you're not where you're supposed to be from a physical perspective, meaning where your bloodline ties to, if you do not have your energy and your consciousness together to be in harmony with the planet. And let's be clear what motherfucking harmony is about. Harmony is not about striking no new motherfucking fresh deal any of these corporate fictional systems. That's not what being in harmony is about. Because Mama Earth don't need that bullshit. Fuck you, that paperwork and that pen and that motherfucking paper that you writing that bullshit on. She don't need none of that. That's man-made constructs. So that's not even being in harmony. So anyone that have in their mindset that you think that the fucking reset is going to be a new system that melanated people gonna be on top, you finna be ass motherfucking out. Because the reset ain't about no new goddamn system continuing the same bullshit. That's still a matrix. It's still out of balance with the universe. You don't need a monetary system. In balance, it's being in tune with the land. That means using the is never depleted to the point that it cannot be regenerated to take care of you and the generations to come. That's what being in harmony is about. It's about being in tune with the fucking land. And when people get back to where the fuck they belong, get in tune with the land, respect the land, then all of the rest will come into place. The motherfucking animals gonna get what they need. They'll no longer be a hindrance, a burden. Everything will be back in harmony. So let's be clear on what balance is. All of this shit is man-made. These different nations, this constitution, that paperwork, that shit is fake, it's false. The universe don't need it nor ordered it. Mama Earth certainly motherfucking don't need it nor ordered it. This shit was man created through consciousness. And until you get your goddamn consciousness right, you're always going to be enslaved. It'll just be slavery with a motherfucking twist, with an olive in it. But will be the same exact thing. And if you don't start cleaning up your shit, you will be purged. So be very careful. Go within. Learn. That's when we talk about know thyself. Because they're going to keep putting out this different propaganda. Reset this. This one got that one. That they don't have a motherfucking thing for you. You got what you need right under your motherfucking feet. Take care of it. Get in tune with it. That's what this is about. So I'll yield in case somebody want to put something on it, and then we'll go into the two movies.
I mean, do people still really? I mean, are people really still talking about a global reset?
I'm telling you, yes, they are.
But like the reset button on Madden? Like the reset button
I don't know the video games, but yeah, I'm telling you that they are.
All you're doing is resetting the same game. I mean,
the same exact game.
But I guess they hoping that they're end up on top.
That's exactly what it is. They're gonna be on top of the reset.
So reset, recycle, reincarnate.
Exactly. But I'm here to tell you, and now if that's what you want to do, boo-boo, we good. That is your every right. But what I am telling you, not on this motherfucking land mass you ain't, boo.
Right.
Not on the Americas, including the Caribbeans. You get the fuck up the road with that bullshit. Prepare to pack your motherfucking bags to go to Asia, Europe, and if Africa want to participate in that. But on the Americas, it's a motherfucking wrap. We're not resetting to another system that has proven to not work anytime you bring monetary gain into it, because we don't need it.
And there's a lot of Christians in that St. Michael, St. such and such.
Yeah, St. such and so trust, this, that, and the third, and they've been waiting for so many years, and folks then died, locked up, lost homes. Look, like I said, if that's what people want to do, that's their business, but I am telling you, not on the Americas. So prepare to pack your shit and go to Asia and Europe and or Africa if some of them African nations fall into that. But on the Americas, we're not having it. We're not having it.
They ain't having it in their homelands either. It ain't like we can go over there to their countries and do all the bullshit they do. They fuck you up real quick. You gonna respect their culture and everything.
Absolutely. You get fucked up on sight. Thinking you finna come over there telling them what the hell to do. And, this also goes to the Pan-Africans that's pushing their motherfucking agenda. The ones that know that that narrative is false and it doesn't apply to most of the indigenous people over here. You pack your motherfucking bags. Pack the shit. Pack the shit. Get on the plane. Get on the boat. Do what the fuck you gotta do. Africa is waiting for you.
Hey, sis. Mm-hmm. Why are people not like the people in other countries? When you go to their countries, the regular people, they all around selling shit. You can't get nowhere without running into somebody out there hustling. Yeah. We don't get to set up shop like that. As soon as you get off the plane over there, there's motherfuckers all over the place trying to sell you something.
Right.
I mean, so every time them motherfuckers come over here, every time a plane lands, it should be a bunch of quote-unquote niggas with hood tours and all types of shit.
Right. Right.
Medallions, everything to sell their ass.
Right, and especially in New York. Especially in New York. The mecca of where a lot of folks want to come to, they should be cleaning up like a motherfucker, boy.
Exactly. So this motherfuckers get off planes, boats, whatever. It should be Indians. Should be Indians right there with all type of shit to sell.
Exactly. And I'm even going to put it back on the Pan-Africans. Let's start with them. Motherfucker, since you know all the true history, this, that, and the third, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you going to try to pimp the indigenous people here with that false fucking narrative, you should be the first ones at the plane, greeting your brothers and sisters, right?
Right.
Giving them the tools. Mm-hmm. But instead, you over here fucking with the indigenous, trying to tell us who the fuck we are. So everybody is being put on notice. But this is specifically to the Americas, my own land. We're not having any of that fuckery anymore. Not interested in no new corporate system, striking no motherfucking new contracts, deals, none of that, because, bitch, I don't have to. Everything I need is in the land. We don't need you here. Matter of fact, Mama Earth don't need none of us motherfuckers here. If you want to keep it real, shit.
That's true. You know, I went to a powwow at the university this weekend, and we had a good conversation. My son took me there because they wanted to meet us because he showed them our DNA. As Mayan and all these other tribes, right? So everything was cool until the good dude, and you know, they're the Mongolian
right.
American. I mean, the natives, right. Okay? They're the only ones that can go out there and strut their stuff, or that does strut their stuff, because we need to start strutting ours. So he was finishing up all these things, and he said, you know, the Africans married into the Indians. I looked at him and I said, I am not an African. And he said, what? I said, no, I have no African heritage. I am from here. He said, well, the Indians married into the Africans. No. They were allowed to do that. I said, that's not me. So he was cool until he got to that idea to try to put me in my place, telling me I was an African.
Exactly.
And I told him what I thought about him and who my ancestors were. I told him who my ancestors were in the first place. But he had to, at the end of the conversation, at the end of the day, jab in there to try to make me think I don't know who I am, tell me I'm an African.
Right.
I just, okay, so this is how they do us. That's how they're doing the Jamaicans, they're doing the Africans in Africa, because they said they are there. But that's not really what Africa was, really, right?
Right.
It was just it was a little spot. Now they done changed the whole continent into Africa.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And keep even switching up within that continent that they're calling Africa. The different nations, the names of those nations, it's all fuckery and trickery. But even with the Native Americans, they better get their shit together and get it together real quick. Because now in their defense, some of the newer generation, they're only going by what their ancestors were telling them. Ones that are not the youngins, as I call them, they better get their shit together. They better get it together, and they better get it together quick, because Trump card is showing their ass better than he's telling them. He don't give a fuck about their Native American status. He gives two shits about it, because he knows that it's bullshit. And he's going to continue to fuck with them and show them we can come in and do anything to you. This land that you think is yours, we gonna do that. Them benefits that you think we owe you, we ain't got to give you shit. He's going to show them. He is showing them better than he's telling them. Now that is their cue from the spirit world to get it right and tell the truth of who they really are.
That Dakota Pipeline's telling them what they're doing to them. They put them all in jail and stuff. Threw them off that land.
But you're sovereign, though, right? That's what they say. They're sovereign. And that's their land. So how was the U.S. Corp able to come through and do that bullshit?
That's right.
So, yeah, everybody's being put on notice. Everybody that's been faking the motherfucking funk, you have to tell the truth now. And if you don't tell the truth, mama gonna clean it up for your ass. I heard someone else say, and it maybe even been Tasha Chi, that said that they went to a powwow. And I'm not sure if it was her specifically or she was telling the story secondhand, but they went to a powwow, and they told them that they motherfucking couldn't do a powwow with them. Them bitches asked for their Indian card, their BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs card, to participate in a funk-ass powwow. And said they were only following tradition. Well, wait a minute, bitch. Let's get this clear. If your powwow are all about honoring the land and the ancestors, you mean to tell me you're not going to allow other people to do that? They got to show a motherfucking identification card? Everybody is being put on notice. That is including you Native Americans. Those that don't know, okay, cool. Now, motherfucker, you know. Go research, because you're not going to get a pass. Trump is not fucking with you just to be fucking with you. He's told to fuck with you, because the time is up with this classification and this lying shit. So to save your own bloodline, you better get the shit right, get the truth out there, and clean up your own doorstep. Because that motherfucking slavery narrative that you've been given married into your shit? I don't think so, boo. I don't think so. It's many more of us blacks that look exactly like some pictures in the 1700s than what your people look like today. We haven't changed. We still fucking look the same. Why your bloodline all of a sudden white than a motherfucker, or you look like the Hispanic brothers and sisters, or the Mexicans, or Caucasians? You better start telling the truth. Because it's not going to be good for you. You know the fucking prophecy. Stop playing games. Okay. So we're going to get into, dang, Brother Sean and dropped off again. Maybe that's him. Let's see. Okay, brother, I think I'm opening you back up. Okay, you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see.
You see what I sent you?
Let me see. You sent the email or
text?
Okay, let me see. Etymology. Powwow. Okay, yep, I see it. I'm bringing it up now. Okay, powwow. He sent me. This is from the Antimatter online dictionary. We highly recommend that because it breaks down the origins of words. So powwow is a noun. 1620. Oh, hell to the no. In the words of Whitney, with the hell to the no. 1620s. You got to be. Woo! I'm sorry, Brother Sean. Then blow my motherfucking wig back. Powwow now. 1620. Priest, sorcerer from a New England Algonquin language, probably Narragansett, powwow, shaman, medicine man, Indian priest, from a verb meaning to use divinity or divination, to dream, from Proto-Algonquin, Pawiwa, he dreams, one who dreams, meaning magical ceremony among North American Indians, is recorded from 1660. Sense of council conference meeting is first recorded in 1812. The verb is sense of, to confer, discuss, is attested from 1780. So again, this is off of the etymology dictionary online, www.etymononline.com. That is the definition of powwow. So I'm going to go back and say, goddamn, Native Americans, native, not indigenous. Who the fuck you going to say can't participate in your piss-ass powwow? Because they don't have a BIA card? I bet you better go check out what the fuck the origins of the powwow came from. Okay. So thank you,
Where your magic at? Where your magic at?
Exactly. I would have even respected the shit more if they would have said, well, you know, sister, this is the high priestess spiritual thing, blah, but bitch, you gonna tell me I had to motherfucking present a BIA card? That's where an ass whooping should have taken place. Had we not been in this fucked up corporate matrix system, that really constitutes a motherfucking ass whooping. Okay? So there you have it, family. family. That is the definition of powwow. So meaning you don't need to go to the Native American shit. Because it's not for your benefit. It's spiritual. You, as the indigenous people on this land, with your each individual bloodlines and with yourself, you are supposed to be developing priestesses. I'm going to start with the priestesses, the women, the shamans, the sorcerers. That's what you're supposed to fucking be doing. Do your own goddamn powwow. This stuff comes from you. You don't have to go to the Native Americans to participate in their shit. You're not imitating them, goddammit. They imitating you.
Hey, Rhonda, I was watching them dance, and I said to my son, I say, hey, they look like they doing that Holy Ghost dance that we do in them churches. I said, they copy everything. And they going to turn around and tell us our own history. I said, isn't that something? But that's what we did all that, and they came in and took it. And they're supposed to be, Assyrians. Matter of fact, one of the old chiefs they had captured, and he had a medicine bag on him years, in the 1600s and stuff, and it showed that they were Assyrians. I saw a report on that, or a video or something I watched, and the chief of one of the big groups of tribal people, he was an Assyrian. He is the Mongoloids. Just like you said, Brother Sean, they're Mongoloids. And they came over here across that barren straits and started mating with our men. The women came over here. They should have sent the women first. And then, of course, then Genghis Khan and his folks came and raided and captured and took some of our people away from here. So they're Mongoloids, period, in the problem. And he going to stand up there and tell me, well, you're African, and, of course, they did allow some of the Indians to mate with.
Allow.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, excuse me? I'll tell you who I am. I'm a I'm an Apache. Those corporation names, I was yelling at him. Because I really got ticked off when he told me that. I said, I'll tell you who my ancestry is. I had told him in the beginning, but then he got nasty and said that to me. So then I got nasty back.
Right. So, Native Americans, and this has nothing, any slight against the folks that don't know, especially the younger generation. But
he wasn't that young.
And I figured the motherfucker wasn't, just the way, because he knew what the fuck he was doing. He gonna try to jab into you to say, in other words, you're not technically a part of me, a part of us. Bitch, don't get your motherfucking feelings hurt because you on my shit. And
right.
You ain't finna be on that long. So, I figured that, he was definitely older, and you've been put on notice, Native Americans, okay? And Trump is putting you on notice. Now, I'm not no fucking Trump fan. I've said this from the beginning because I don't get into politics. He is playing the role that he is supposed to play. And he's giving them clues that all of them agreements that the U.S. corporation made with them to switch identities, to be on them reservations, all that shit is null and void. He's giving them clues that that's what's about to happen, okay? That they're supposed to be the holders of some prophecies. Am I right or am I wrong? That's what they claim.
They don't even know.
So you better get it right, clean up your bloodline, clean up your shit. Okay? All right.
Native American is a citizen of the corporation.
Yes, they are. Absolutely. That's the classification. The U.S. corporation has jurisdiction over them. That's why they come fucking with them on their land. Or what they think is their land. Absolutely. Which they don't even own, they don't even control, because they signed over to put that shit in a trust.
But they can't put nothing in the trust that they didn't own to begin with.
Exactly. Which is the reason why the corporation did it the way they did it. That's why they struck the deal. Well, in order to receive these benefits, to receive a motherfucking monthly welfare check, including some Medicaid benefits, you have to sign over this reservational land to a trust. They did that for that purpose because they knew that they lied to them people in the beginning. They can't give them something that ain't fucking there. So they better wake up. That's all I can say.
They nomadic people. I mean, if they look into their own ancestry, they found out they people ain't belong to nowhere. That's why their ancestors was always walking some goddamn place, always going to other people's shit. Because they ain't had shit.
Well,
so they just went around taking stuff, settling everywhere. You see Mongoloid people on every continent.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Well, I'm just gonna
like the Europeans.
Yeah, and just like we discussed that last week on the Europeans, the particular folks that are over here that need to again wake up, do their research, look at the shit for the way it is. You're gonna have to take it up with the crown. You got to take that bullshit up with the crown about how your ancestry got over here and was enslaved, woo, woo, woo. So that shit has to go back to the crown on that particular land mass to settle that out. With the Native Americans, you're going to have to take that shit back to Asia. Going to have to take it back to Asia and get that bullshit together. Okay. Very, very good. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
So, I mean, it's just strange that they all want to come over here and join the military here. Why you can't join the military at home? Why you can't fight for your own shit? I mean, make both sense to me because, I mean, in the end, you still getting up out of here.
Right.
I mean, it don't matter what you doing from here and claiming to be an American citizen or U.S. citizen.
Right.
Ain't none of this bullshit y'all doing. We ain't got nothing to do with that. We ain't a part of none of them contracts. None of that stuff that y'all doing. So I'm just putting it out there for the record. That ain't got nothing to do with us.
It really
does. What y'all doing is to y'all demise. We just want to be left alone. I mean, I just don't see why people don't get that. I mean, just look at the house that you in now. Now, just imagine somebody coming in, rape your wife, kill a couple of your children, throw you down in the basement, every now and then come down, impregnate one of your daughters. Y'all know how the story went.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just imagine this happening to you in your basement, and after generations, they finally let your descendants come up to the table. You know, y'all finally get to come upstairs. You get to come out the basement. That's cool, right? That's progress. You content with that, right? I mean, at no point do you just want your house back.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean,
and as a matter of fact, I'm not, in 3 minutes before we go into overtime, I don't see anybody in the chat room, but if you want to continue, you have to dial 929-477-3858, 929-477-3858. 3 minutes, we're going into overtime. I agree, Brother Sean, and as a matter of fact, I'm not sitting in no motherfucking table with you bitches to bargain a goddamn thing, because this is my shit. So do you think I'm going to, you done threw me in the motherfucking basement, beat my ass, I'm defeated, because you had better weaponry than me, and then Pookie them a couple of motherfucking blocks over sold me out in the first motherfucking place, took they cut.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the basement, and not only did you beat my ass and enslave me, you got me teaching you my shit on my motherfucking land.
Mm-hmm.
Mixed in with some of us through birthing, and so now that you claim you let me about the basement, and bitch, you ain't doing me no favor. You letting me about the basement because you have no choice to. You really honestly think that I'm going to sit at the table and negotiate? Bitch, negotiate what? This is still my shit. Before the ass whooping, during the ass whooping, and after the ass whooping. It's still my shit. I'm not negotiating shit with you. What you need to be doing is making arrangements to get the fuck on. That's what you need to be doing. So, very good point, Brother Sean. Very, very good point. We're not interested. We're not interested in none of that. We weren't interested in the beginning, and we're not interested now. We're not talking about the other bloodlines that was on the Americas and that are still on the Americas that was interested in your trinkets. We're that same bloodline that you fought that wasn't motherfucking interested. Yeah, we're that crew. We're never going to be interested because it's not in balance. Your concentration as invaders should be at your own bloodline in your own land to clean up your shit. Because you have to. If you want your species and bloodline to survive. The planet has spoken. She's showing you every day. Get your shit in order. Your shit is not over here. Your place is not over here. Go back to your homelands and clean up your shit. Get in tune with that land. If not, you're going to be destroyed. And that includes the people in the Americas. That includes my immediate bloodline. That shit is over with. We're not interested. So, very, very good point, Brother Sean. So, all right. So, Brother 832 kind of talked about that movie, Australia. I'm going to go back and watch that, too. Because I've seen it once when it first came out. These two movies, the first one I'm going to talk about is The Walkabout. And I'm going to be highly condensing all of this to summarize how these movies tie extremely close to Land and Bloodlines. So we're going to start with The Walkabout. Okay, so now this particular movie was about a lost European preteen girl and her brother. Okay, so they got lost in the Australian bush. So now, no, don't ask the sister how they got lost, because again, I didn't get the opportunity to see this movie from the beginning. I came in at the point where they were already lost. Okay, so they were wandering in the bushland over in Australia for days. Okay, And so some motherfucking beating down on them. They ain't had shit to eat but what was in their little school bags, because it appeared that they had left school because they had school uniforms on. Okay, so whatever candy or whatever gum or whatever they had on them, snacks, that shit had been gone. Okay, so they're in the bush, so meaning that climate, the weather, it swings and it changes. So they didn't have any water, and they was really, really weak. And so they were laying where they had made some shade for themselves with a shirt, and they trying to sit up under the shade, but the sun's still beaming down, tearing their asses up. So this Aboriginal boy, he comes over this sandy hill. And so he come over, jet black. You all should know how the Aboriginals of Australia look. Jet black with kind of the curly hair. He comes over with his motherfucking loincloth on, minding his business, and he was hunting. So the little boy was like, I'm finna get his attention. So he got the Aboriginal young man's attention, and of course they couldn't communicate verbally because they had different languages. So the little boy got him to understand that they needed water. So the Aboriginal boy was like, oh, okay, cool, I get it. They must be lost. Now, none of this in the picture at this time, they're not talking. You just have to watch the picture to see all of this unfold. So he walks over, and the little puddle that they were drinking out of had dried up. So he had this bamboo thingy on him. He broke it off, and it became a straw. He poked the straw down in the puddle and ciphered up to get water. And so they were both like, oh, man. So both of the girl, the preteen girl, drank from it. The little boy drank from it. So the Aboriginal boy knew at that point, oh, shit, they don't know what the hell they doing. So they noticed where he was hunting, and he had already had around his loincloth like a belt. And on it, he had these different, his different prey that he had hunted. Almost looked like little lizards. I don't know exactly what the damn thing was that he was hunting. So he literally went on ahead and hunted them something and cooked, made a fire and cooked for them, this, that, and the third. So then the Aboriginal boy took them back to his people. And so his people were real, open to them, of course, still, they're not communicating verbally because they can't. They have this language barrier. But the people seem to be cool, wasn't no problem, this, that, and the third. So they kicked it there for a couple of days. And then all of a sudden, the next scene, you see the Aboriginal boy leaving with the preteen European and little boy back, and from that point you assumed in the movie that he was helping them to find where they were supposed to be on the mainland, okay? Because in Australia you have the mainland, and then you have what they call bushland, okay? So kind of think of it the same way here, where we are at what they're calling the United States was considered the mainland. And then the islands are the islands, what they're calling the Caribbean. So kind of look at it a little bit in that way. Okay, so throughout this movie, the Aboriginal boy hunted, made sure they ate, when they got sick because the sun was fucking with them and stuff, He found the different herbs and medicine to soothe them. The little boy had got real sick. He found herbs to help break the little boy's fever. So they were still on this journey to get back to the mainland. So these two European children wouldn't be lost anymore. But during the time of their journey, it unfolded how they had a genuine friendship. So the friendship between the Aboriginal boy, the preteen girl, and her brother, the little boy. So, and one thing, the Aboriginal boy was laying down, chilling, and then the preteen girl was kind of sitting on the side, and she was checking him out on the little slat, looking at his little loincloth. I said, oh, shit, here we go. So he was kind of checking her out, so you could kind of tell that they were kind of digging each other, but they never acted on it because, it was still all about him getting them back to the mainland and all of these children developing friendships. So literally through the movie, it showed a lot of the hunting, and then the Aboriginal was showing them the different places in the bushes, in the bushland, and how they survived. And during the whole time, the children, the European children, were having a good time. They were all cool. They were all friendly. So then the preteen girl, as they got closer to land, the mainland, I have to say the mainland, she runs across this house that had been abandoned. So to her, she's like, oh, man, she's all happy and stuff because she knows that they're getting close to the mainland, and this is something that she's familiar with. So she goes into the house and starts looking around or whatever, and then the Aboriginal boy and the little boy, they went in, but they went back out or whatever, and so they start wandering in these areas on their own. So then all of a sudden, you see in the scene these European men, white men, driving in this Jeep, and you just hear gunfire, pow, pow, pow. They were hunting. And they show the scenes where the animals were like, what the fuck is going on? So you got all the, different, the big mammal animals, they running, they hauling ass. You got the birds up in the sky. They like, what the fuck is going on? And these European men were literally in the Jeep just shooting that shit, just shooting the animals down for no fucking reason. They weren't even hunting for food. So the Aboriginal boy, he's witnessing this, and he stood there just frozen in shock. Like, what the fuck is going on? So literally, they drove through, the European men, shot up these animals, killed some of them, shot birds down, and as they were rolling through in this Jeep, they already had a big animal in the back. And I don't know, it kind of looked like a rhinoceros. I'm sure it wasn't that. Whatever animal is similar looking to that in Australia, that's what looked like they had already hunted. It was in the back of their Jeep. Okay, but the other animals that they were shooting at, they were just shooting them to kill them because they didn't pick up not one of them animals. They kept the fuck on. So the Aboriginal boy was in shock, like, what the fuck? So he went around to one of the animals that he saw there dead, and he was just devastated. So he started walking around the land, that area, noticing the different animals that they had killed, mindlessly killed, for no fucking purpose at all. And he ran across a graveyard of bones of the animals. And he was so devastated and distraught that he laid down on top of the animal bones and was just caressing the bones. That's how devastated he was. Now, then they shot back to the scene with the European preteen girl in the abandoned house, and she's sweeping and cleaning up and washing her ass and all this. She cool. Okay, the little boy, he was off picking fruit. So the next scene that you see, the Aboriginal boy had totally put himself in ceremonial paint. And he put some of the slain bird's feathers on him. He had it on his pineal gland and in different places on his body. And he had some branches in one hand with leaves on it and feathers in another. And he was going around doing this ceremonial dance, trying to cleanse this motherfucking bad energy, trying to cleanse the area. I mean, he was just a frenzy at it. And he was going at it for days, to the point where the little boy, when he had came back from getting the fruit, he like, what's wrong with such and so? And the preteen girl got scared. She said, I don't know. He's just been like that, because she got scared, and he went around this abandoned house, and he was going around the entire perimeter of the house with the ceremony dance. And she didn't understand what he was doing, but he was trying to cleanse the house. Okay, he's doing a ritual to try to cleanse the house, and she didn't understand, and she got afraid. And she went over in the corner. So he went away, but he was doing that shit for days. So I guess the preteen girl realized in her mind he done lost his fucking mind. She didn't know why he was doing what he was doing. So she started preparing for her and her brother to move on from that abandoned house. So they found, as they were leaving out, right outside of that abandoned house, the Aboriginal boy had hung himself in a tree. Literally. His arms was stretched out and his head was down. And the European preteen girl and the brother was like, oh, what happened to such and so? And she was like, I don't know. I just think he went crazy. He went crazy. He just went crazy. So, they were both sad that, because again, this was their friend. He really saved them. He rescued them. But they knew at this point they could not go beyond the journey with him anymore. Okay, he brought them as far as he could bring them. So they went on to keep walking to get closer onto the mainland, because right now they're just on the outskirts of the mainland. So they walk and they come up upon shit as they're walking, abandoned ass mills where the colonizers were taking motherfucking resources out the land and just abandoning the shit. So they ran across one home where somebody did live there. So they like, oh, cool, shit, we can go up to them and explain to them who we are. They got to speak the same language that we do, woo, this, that, and the third. So they walking up the man's walkway, and the little boy saw a water can. So he picked up the water can and looked at it. And so right away, this old-ass man, European Caucasian man, came out. What do you want? Put that down. Why are you messing with that? And so the preteen girl walked up to him and said, I'm sorry, my brother didn't mean no harm. We've been lost, blah, blah, blah. That man didn't give a fuck about none of that. She couldn't even get out, we need help. Can you point us into the motherfucking direction on where the mainland is? He didn't give two fucks. He was basically like, get the fuck out of my face, and closed his door. So they were in shock because it's like, you're my own people. You didn't even give me the motherfucking opportunity to tell you I needed help, and you just told me to get the fuck on. So they wind up leaving there and kept walking, and then that's when they showed the scenes again where the colonizers were excavating shit out the land where they had already taken the minerals and resources out of the land in that specific area and just left their shit there to rot. Okay, so depleted the land and just left it there. Got the fuck on. So in the last scene of the movie, it showed where the preteen girl is in the kitchen cooking, and she's smoking a square. They showed this building that looks like typical high rises from the 70s, because that's when this movie was made, up in the 70s. She's sitting in the motherfucking kitchen cooking, smoking a square, and just something about her whole spirit just didn't look right. So this man came in, who was obviously her husband, talking about how his day was at work, this, that, and the third. Now, they still in Australia. They're on the mainland. So this is fast forwarding to maybe 5 or 10 years down the line when she's married. So her old man walks in the door from work complaining about the bullshit that's going on at work. Oh, and by the way, he got a promotion, blah, blah, blah. And she got this look on her face like, I don't give a fuck about that. I'm bored. And you could clearly see that on her face. So when she hugged him, because she had to fake it, oh, well, congratulations, sweetheart. So he hugged her, and they showed a scene of her flashing back, having a flashback to the time where it was her little brother, and the Aboriginal boy, when they were all butt naked in a lagoon, swimming, chilling, having a good fucking time. So after she finished hugging her husband, he saw the look in her face, and he said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "Oh, nothing at all." And that's where the movie, it ended from that point on. So I'll pause in case either one of you want to put something on it before I give my analogy.
Familiar story.
Huh?
Say that storyline is familiar. Always helping them.
Mm-hmm.
We always end up paying for it in the end. They go on with their lives. They feel a little guilt, but it don't stop them.
Right. And, and again, that movie is called Walk About. It came out in 1971. What else can I say about it? That's about all. Now, I caught it again on Turner Classic Movie, but I'm seeing where you can get it on Amazon Prime, you can get it on Vudu, and you can get it on iTunes. But that movie, first of all, as Brother Sean said, and that this is why I picked both of these movies, because it is telling the story of colonization and on these different lands. Okay, because those two Europeans could not have survived without that indigenous boy's help. Okay? He welcomed them to help them to survive because it just was not in his nature to just see somebody straight up die like that. Although his people had been conquered already, let's be clear. Because his folks in the motherfucking bush, where they had been defeated, that land, the mainland that the Europeans took over, that they're now calling themselves Australian, is a colony. Where Europe's motherfucking stinking ratchet ass sent their prisoners there. That's how Australia got established. Okay? Same thing what happened over in the Americas. So they sent their people there, but it started with the prisoners first. Then they went over there like they always do when they see something rich and motherfucking thriving. Then they start coming over there warring with the indigenous and kick them off of that land to the bushland. But some of them still remained on the mainland, but they're the lower quote class. So same story that we see today in the Americas. What happened over in Americas? So that was the first part. The movie clearly showed you where the Aboriginal boy, because his bloodline is tied to the land, his people knew how to survive. It was the Europeans that needed him, not the motherfucking other way around. Okay? Now, as he's leading them back to the mainland, being nice, because again, he didn't have to fucking do that. He could have just kept the fuck on. Went on and hunted the rest of his little food, re-put it on his belt, and he could have got the fuck on. But he chose to help them to bring them back to the mainland, okay? But what happened was once he got to that mainland and saw the barbarian of the nature of what the Europeans had done and how they didn't have no respect for the land and the ecosystem, no respect for the animals. It was just not in his bloodline or culture to kill an animal without a purpose. It was just not, you don't kill more than what you need. And everything is supposed to be used for a purpose at that. So it traumatized him to see this in action. Okay? And then he knew, oh shit, I got to cleanse this. This is evil. This is low vibrational. This is how my people cleanse things, with a spiritual ritual. And because that portion of the land had become cursed because of colonization, he could not cleanse even that small area enough, bring it back up to a certain point. And he couldn't handle it and took himself out. Like, I cannot be on this side of the land and continue on. So they show where he basically took himself out. Okay, that's what can be assumed because he was hanging in the tree. So the message in that particular movie was that that indigenous Aboriginal boy, because of his bloodline, it would not allow him to continue on a journey in a cursed land, because that part of the land had been cursed through colonization. Theme also showed how the Europeans had no ties to the land. They just went on trying to build the shit up, how they build up Europe. No regards for the animals, for the plants, for the indigenous people. So that's what that movie was showing, and it showed that the little time that the European girl and her brother, and at the end of the movie, I found it interesting that they didn't show the little boy. They showed the girl in the flashback, the fast forward rather, that she, in her soul, in her consciousness, she knew that this shit that she's currently in, with these high rises and her people being on top on somebody else's land, she's not even happy with the shit, because she knows that it's not in nature. She was more happy when she was in with the Aboriginal boy, and he was teaching them about the land and how much fun they had living off the land versus this bullshit that she was in now. Okay, so that was that first movie, The Walkabout, how it showed the close ties of the Aboriginals to the land and the colonizers being totally disconnected from the land, and how the Aboriginal boy could not handle how that part of the land, the mainland, had been cursed. His energy would not allow it. So I'll pause in case somebody has something to put on that.
Well, that's a brilliant movie, and they really kind of a lot of people's feelings. And I've been watching a lot of videos. Well, I have been, but lately I haven't. But I read comments. I read the comment section. I want to see how people are accepting all of this.
Yep.
There are, to their credit, Europeans who are totally devastated when they hear what their people have done. They, just like this little girl, is like, man, this is terrible. It was better back then than now. So they're saying what they were told in these comments.
Yep.
And they were told that this land was empty and nobody was here when they came. That's what they were being told. Just a few people were here, and the rest of it was for the taking. I read those comments, and they were so ashamed, and they were crying. They said, "Can you forgive us? We didn't know. We didn't know." So they're so dastardly and devious that they have to lie to their own people.
Exactly.
What they have done to others to be, quote unquote, on top.
Yep.
And the people are actually crying because they didn't know that their ancestors had done that. Yep. They don't know that when they had that first Thanksgiving dinner, I'm going to talk about it because Thanksgiving is coming up. They invited 200 natives, you can correct the number if you like, to have dinner with them because they taught them how to survive.
That's right.
And what did they do? What did they do? They poisoned them. They poisoned all 200 of those Indians. And then I heard they turned around and they ate them. I said, whoa. So that is beyond despicable. Somebody that taught you to survive, just like that young boy did. But he killed himself. He killed himself. They didn't tell the fact that they killed the ones that helped them survive. And they go around every year celebrating Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And then what do you have to be thankful for? You don't even know what it is you're celebrating. And it's coming.
Right.
It's coming up again. And you're going to go and get that turkey, and they roast that turkey because the Indians had feathers like them turkeys. They had turkeys on them headdress was out of them turkey feathers.
Mm-hmm.
So when you roast that turkey, you're roasting us again as a symbol. They keep symbolizing the destruction in Thanksgiving. I don't think they even know that.
You're right.
If they hear this,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said if they hear this, they will know what they're doing, what it symbolizes.
Yes.
And then they'll be held accountable.
Yes, and you know the interesting part about what you said with the movie Walkabout and relating it back to here on this land, because you're right, because the indigenous people on this land, when they started sending Europeans over here, they didn't survive a lot. And you can look this up. RT News did a motherfucking documentary on that now. RT News let that shit out the bag. They talked about the first people that came over from Europe to the Americas and how they couldn't survive. They died because they couldn't survive on the land. They didn't know the land. They froze to death, all of this thing. And they had become so desperate that they resorted to cannibalism, where they were digging up the bodies out the ground, eating them. Now, this is the shit they don't want to talk about. That was how their own European nation sent the first set of folks over here. Okay? But then when they start running up on the indigenous did just like the young boy did in Australia in the bush line. They fed them, etc., etc., etc. So you are absolutely right, sis. You're absolutely right. It's the same thing. And that particular story, by the way, the Walkabout. Did I close that down? No, I didn't close it down. That story took place, it looked like the 30s. Although it was made in 1971, the setting of the stories looked like that it was made like in the 30s or the 40s. And the bushland, you can also look at that as the outback, because that's what Australians call that area also, the outback, where the indigenous Aboriginal are from. So very good point, sis. Okay. So that was the first movie, and that's called The Walkabout. The second movie, and again, just to point out, both of these back-to-back movies were being played on Turner Classic Movie, and they lumped these movies in with the whole month, dedicating it, guess to whom? The African Americans. So I was shocked to see these two movies put in the mix, but they did. Okay, so the second movie, my sis, she had been telling me for months, you got to watch that movie, The Last Wave, The Last Wave, The Last Wave. So I finally had watched it, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, and said, oh, shit, that's deep. But then, again, last Thursday, came on again after Walkabout. Okay, so now this movie, it still takes place in Australia, and it opens with an Aboriginal writing something. He's in the bushland. He's in the outback, and he's sitting with his little loincloth on, and he's writing something on one of the stones. So then the next scene they show in the movie, that the main character, a Caucasian guy Caucasian European guy, his name is David in the movie. He's in his car, and it starts raining really, really, really hard. And then it started hailing really, really hard. And so he's in his car at a traffic light, and people are running to get on this bus. So they show on the bus the name of the bus, and guess what the name of the bus was? I just was like, oh shit, this is gonna be on and popping. The name of the bus was Ley Lines. Literally, Ley space Lines. I said, oh shit, this is gonna be good. So the next scene shows where him getting to the crib, him walking in the door, whatever, talking to his wife, and the babies walk up to greet them. And so next thing he knows, you see in the movie, this water starts coming down the stairs. And him and his wife, David and his wife, like, what the hell? Where's this water coming from? So he runs upstairs, and it's where a bathtub is overflowing. So they're blaming it on the two daughters, because he has two daughters. They look like they're about 7 and 3, something like that. Okay, so they cut from that scene, and they go to a scene where these Aboriginal men are, you see one Aboriginal man that looked like he is in this cave, and he took something, and he like looking around sneakily. Then he leaves out of the cage, and as he's leaving out of the cage, you see him walking out of this building structure. Look like a business or a plant or something. So as he was leaving, there was a bunch of other Aboriginal men that was around him telling him, put it back, put it back, put it back. And he holding on to whatever this artifact is. And he holding it like, I ain't putting shit back, but he's scared because they was getting ready to fuck him up. So then this car pulls up, and so this other Aboriginal man in the car, all of the other men, all of them, when they saw him pull up, everybody stopped. So he just simply, the window was rolled down, and he had something in his hand. I can't remember if it was a knife or if it was a letter opener with something metal and sharp, and he simply pointed at the motherfucking man that had stole the stuff. And then the man just started clutching at his chest. He falls out dead. So then next thing you know, the police came to retrieve the body, this, that, and the third. And then the Aboriginal men that was from the beginning telling him to put the shit back, they got arrested. So then the European man, David, he's a lawyer. So they called him in and was like, we need you to help on this case for pro bono. Because on the mainland, now all of this is taking place on the mainland in Australia, they had a free service lawyer place for people to come to get free lawyer representation. So the David man was called in to help be on this particular case. So he's like, well, I don't know why y'all want me on this case. I'm not a criminal lawyer. I'm a tax lawyer. And they were like, well, none of that matters. You need to be on this case with the rest of us. So they brought the Aboriginals in and start introducing them to the panel of lawyers. And so one of the cops told the Aboriginal people, yeah, we need such and so. We need your brother to turn himself in as well. So his brother is the Aboriginal that was in the car. And they were like, okay. whatever. So in the meantime, they show that the main character, David, he back at the crib, and he keeps having these vivid dreams. And one of the vivid dreams, he saw the Aboriginal man that he has not yet met, yet to meet, the one that was in the car. He saw him in the dream. So the man held out in his hand this artifact, and the artifact was a stone, and it had like the swirl on it. Okay, and so with this line through the swirl, so he didn't know what he was showing him. So the guy had wind up waking up, whatever. So it just kind of went on to show where David the man and the lawyers were talking about how they're going to represent these people, the Aboriginals, and they need to cut a deal to get the shit over with, this, that, and the third. So David was like, well, I need to meet with my clients, the Aboriginal men, to get to know them. So he am at his crib. So they came over there, and they also brought the one Aboriginal man that was in the car. So when David see this man, he freaking out. He like, oh, shit. This was the same man that I had just saw up in my dream the other night. So after dinner or whatever, David was showing the Aboriginals like photo albums of his family, his childhood, his parents, and all that jazz. And so the one Aboriginal that he saw in his dream, he did not speak English. So he translated to his brother to ask David, who are your people? And so David, the main character, he didn't understand. He trying to think, well, what is he talking about? Who are my people? So he looked back like to say, I don't understand. And so the Aboriginal man started doing hand signs, showing him, motherfucker, where are you from? Are you from where the sun set or from where the sun rise? Which one is it? So the other guy that was translating, his brother said just that. He's asking, where do you come from? Do you come from where the sun rise or where the sun set? So then David got it, and this what tripped me out. He said, oh, well, I grew up in Argentina. I said, oh, hell to the no. So they all nodded their head and said, okay. So the one guy said, do you get visions? And so David looked at him in shock, and he said, yeah, I do get visions. So that was pretty much the end of that scene. The Aboriginals, they wind up going on about their way or whatever because they was getting prepared to go up into the court. So they cut to the scene where David was breaking it down to his wife because this was all troubling him. He's like, why the fuck I keep having these dreams? And this guy walks through my front door that's in the damn dream, and then they asking me, where am I from? Then want to know, asking me if I'm having visions. So he's trying to piece all this together and seeing how does it tie into this case. So he started talking to his wife about the case. So his wife is holding a book and talking about the history of the Aboriginals. And she said, well, you know, sweetie, that the Aboriginals, they were originally on this mainland. And he looking at her like, that's impossible. They were never on this mainland. They've always been in the bushland. She was like, well, not according to this book. They were on the mainland, and specifically the tribe, blah, blah, blah. And so was like bewildered. And so the camera showed the book that the wife was looking at, and it showed a side-by-side picture of the Aboriginals. It showed the original Aboriginals, how they were all in their ceremonial or indigenous outfits, and then they showed the today picture where the Aboriginals was just laying in a slump, looked like either drunk on drugs. So she started reading to him out of the book on how these Aboriginals have been on the land and even the mainland for thousands and thousands of years, if not millions of years. And so in the book, she was like, yeah, they have artifacts and everything that, that they have found on these mainlands. So she turns the book to show him the artifacts, and which fucking artifact shows up? But the artifact that he saw in the dream that the Aboriginal man had showed him in his hand. So he freaking the fuck out like, oh, hell no. So the next day, he gets up and he goes to the police department evidence room. He like, fuck all this. I want to know what artifacts or what belongings was found on the man that was killed. So sure enough, he go in the evidence room, find a little shit out. And what was one of the artifacts? That same artifact that was shown to him in the dream. That stone, the swirl on it with the line down the middle. So now he just like, oh, hell no. So he takes that artifact to an, I'm not sure if the lady was an anthropologist or archaeologist. I think she was an anthropologist. So he was asking about the different tribes, the different indigenous tribes of the lands, et cetera, et cetera. So she was giving him all of the background, and she mentioned the same group of people that the wife had told him about in the book that were indigenous to the mainland. And once he said, she was getting ready to say the name, David said the same name at the same time as the anthropologist lady, and she looked at him and said, oh, you're familiar with them? And he said, yeah, I think that they're still here on the mainland. And she said, that's impossible. They're not here on the mainland anymore. And he said, well, can you tell me about this? So he shows her the artifact. And she looked at him. She said, where did you get this from? And he said, I pulled it out of the evidence room. It was on one of the Aboriginals. She said, do you know what this is? This is thousands and thousands of years old. And he said, well, what does it mean? So then that's when she started explaining that these particular indigenous people, they believe that the spiritual and the physical world are one and the same. That's what this swirl means. So the swirl represents the world, and the line between the middle is showing you the spiritual side and showing you the physical side. And she was saying that this particular tribe believes that they can go over to the spiritual side anytime they want to make things happen on the physical side. And she said, and some of them will even say that they're not from this physical world, that they only deal with the spiritual side of the world. So he's sitting there freaking out. And as she's telling the story out, in the background, they have subliminally put a picture, a painting out of the motherfucking alien graves in the back. I'm like, oh shit, they tripping. So a part of her explanation also with the particular indigenous people, she said that the indigenous people believe that at every change of the ages, there will be catastrophes that happen with weather. And those are cycles that must happen. So he's sitting there like blown away because this is tying into his dreams and his visions that he keeps having of this really, really bad weather that's going on, plus the current weather that they're getting on the mainland with all of this rain and all of this hail or whatever. So he goes back to his people at the lawyer's office and he tells them, y'all can't try these aboriginals. And they like, well, what do you mean? Why can't we try them? He said, because they're on tribal land. And they're like, what are you talking about? They're not there. There's no aboriginals on the mainland. There hasn't been for thousands and thousands of years. He said, I am telling you that they are. And we cannot try them on their tribal land. They are not under our jurisdiction. And so he went back and forth with them arguing. So he finally told them, well, I tell you what, y'all go ahead on. I'll take the case myself because that's going to be my argument. And so they were like, cool, but please be clear, you on your own. We're not co-signing none of that, none of this. So in the meantime, the wife at home, they show her as having a vision where that same man, and I'm going to call him a shaman, was standing outside the house in the rain. Okay, so she's starting to have visions as well. Okay, so then they cut to where that they went to trial, and he was trying to argue to the fact that the Aboriginals are in fact on their tribal land, so therefore these proceedings are invalid. And the court just gasped, like, what the fuck is you talking about, dude? That this ain't none of this valid. And so he kept making the point, and the Aboriginal, they didn't speak up at all on their behalf. And so, after the courtroom case, he talked one-on-one with the Aboriginal and said, I know that you all are indigenous to this land. So the Aboriginal was telling him, he asked him, are you still having them visions? And he said, yeah, I'm still having them. He said, okay, this is spiritual world stuff. You need to stay out of it. Don't worry about what's going to happen to us. So David was still not making the connections. So he goes after that and followed the Aboriginal man in his car. So the Aboriginal man went in this building, and then he came back out of the building. So after he came out of the building, David went in the building, and this woman answered the door. And so he said, is such and so here? And she said, yeah. So she let him in, and such and so was the shaman man, the original man I was telling you all that was in the car. So she led him into this room, and he said to him, you scared my wife the other night. So in other words, when you showed up in her dreamland, you scared her. So he said to him, have a seat. So he set him on the floor, and it was this bowl in front of them. And the shaman did a ritual. And David went into the dreamland, and he started seeing all of these catastrophes happening with weather. I mean, all of this massive flooding happening. And so when he woke up out of the dream or the trance, the shaman was gone. The place was fucking empty. He couldn't find the lady or none of that. So he makes it back to the crib, and in the meantime, it starts raining really violently. And the wife all scared because it's hailing. He gets in the crib, and trees were falling through the house. And so he told his wife to take the children, get off the mainland, get out of here, period. So in the meantime, he, for whatever reason, goes back to that ancient site through that building, because the ancient site, they built over that ancient site with some plant. And he went in this plant, went through, found the ancient site, and saw all of the ancient artifacts there, different masks. They had painting, writings on the walls, and all of that. And then the shaman showed up there instantaneously in his ceremonial face paint and was telling him, get out of here, because David started picking up artifacts trying to take it. And I'm hoping we don't get cut off, y'all. I don't know if we're going to get cut off at the 10:30 mark. If so, I'll finish this last little piece up because I'm almost done next week. And then we're also going to discuss Andrip, or Adrip. So bottom line, end of the story, David didn't listen. He wound up killing the shaman man, trying to take the mask, ran up out of the ancient artifact, dropped the mask, and ran all the way to the coastline and dropped in the sand and started crying. And as he was doing that, the water came through. This big-ass wave was coming up out of the water, about to drown him out. So like a tsunami type wave was coming towards him, and then the movie ended. I'm not going to have time to break it down tonight because I think we're getting ready to get cut off. Sis or Sean, did you want to put any last words out to the family, or